Good morning, amazing Lull Now community. Wishing you a fantastic new day filled with vibrant energy and moments as bright as the morning sun. Today, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this video. What did you love, and what could we do better? Drop your feedback in the comments below. Your input means the world and helps us make the channel even better. If you're vibing with the stories and energy of Lull Now, don't forget to hit that like button to show some love and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a new video. Let's spread the positive vibes and dive into thrilling mysteries together.
Listen, if you're watching this, you're probably one of those people who saw that viral post about my forest. Yeah, that forest. The one they're calling haunted on Reddit, X, and God knows where else. I'm begging you, stop. Just stop. You're tearing my life apart. My name's Eliza Thornton, I'm 35 and I've spent half my life protecting this place. But someone out there doxed me, leaked the exact coordinates of my family's land, and now I'm drowning in chaos, trespassers, threats, and things way worse than you can imagine. If you think this is just some spooky campfire tale, stick around, because what I'm about to tell you might make you rethink ever stepping foot in a forest again. I'm not here to scare you for fun. I'm here because I'm exhausted. Physically, mentally, emotionally. My hair's falling out in clumps. I haven't slept more than 3 hours a night in weeks, and every time I close my eyes, I see them. The shadows in the woods, the ones that don't belong to humans. You think I'm crazy? Maybe. But when you've lived through what I have, you'd be a little unhinged too. Let me paint you a picture. I inherited this forest, 300 acres of dense, ancient woodland in northern Maine, from my grandmother, Margaret, when I was 25. She was 78 when she passed, and she left me not just the land, but a warning. Eliza, guard it with your life. There are things in those woods that don't take kindly to strangers. Back then, I thought she was just being dramatic, you know? Old folks love their ghost stories. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. This place isn't just trees and dirt. It's a living, breathing thing, and it's been in my family for generations. My great-grandfather Samuel bought it in 1890, back when Maine was still half wild. He built a cabin, raised a family, and passed down stories about the forest's secrets. I used to think they were fairy tales. Now, I know better. The Thornton Woods, as we call them, aren't on any tourist map. They're not a state park or a hiking trail. They're private property and they're mine. But thanks to some moron on the internet, that doesn't seem to matter anymore. About 3 months ago, someone, still don't know who, posted the exact location of my forest on a subreddit called r/urban legends. They called it the Cursed Woods of Maine and spun some half-baked story about ghostly figures and missing hikers. The post got picked up by X, then Fortune, then TikTok. Before I knew it, my quiet little corner of the world was swarming with wannabe ghost hunters, cryptozoologists, and straight-up idiots looking for clout. They're trampling my land, carving their initials into trees, leaving beer cans and cigarette butts everywhere. I've had to hire extra security, 4 guys, all ex-military, costing me $2,000 a week I don't have. And it's still not enough. Last week, my head of security, Marcus, 42, caught 2 kids, couldn't have been older than 19, trying to sneak in with a Ouija board and a GoPro. They said they were investigating the paranormal for their YouTube channel. Marcus escorted them out, but not before they live-streamed the whole thing, giving away even more details about my property. 2 nights later, another incident. A guy in his 30s, drunk out of his mind, climbed the perimeter fence with a hunting knife. He was screaming about facing the spirits. My team got him out, but he took a swing at one of my guys, landed a cut on his arm. We called the cops, but by the time they showed up, the guy was gone, vanished into the woods. I don't know if he made it out, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to know. I've got a bad feeling about this spring. Maine winters are brutal. Snow piles up 6 feet deep. Ice seals the ground like concrete. When it all melts, I'm terrified of what we'll find. Bodies, maybe, or worse. This isn't speculation, it's happened before. In 2017, a hiker went missing in a forest not far from here. They found him 6 months later, half buried under a fallen tree, no clear cause of death. The coroner said it was exposure, but the locals whispered about something else, something that doesn't leave tracks.
I've told my team, Marcus, Jenny, 29, our tech expert, and the twins, Liam and Lucas, both 31, to be on high alert. We're stretched thin and we're bleeding money. Speaking of money, my younger brother, Nathan, 32, is partly to blame for this mess. He's always been the dreamer of the family, full of big ideas but zero follow-through. Last year, he convinced me to sink $50,000 into a glamping business on the edge of the forest. Luxury tents, guided tours, the whole 9 yards. I should have known better. The permits never came through, the equipment got delayed, and now we're sitting on a pile of debt and a half-built campsite nobody wants. Nathan's sorry, of course, but sorry doesn't pay the bills. I love him, but sometimes I wish he'd just stick to his day job as a graphic designer.
On top of all this, it's that time of year again, December, the season when the Yule Lads come out to play. If you've never heard of them, consider yourself lucky. They're part of Icelandic folklore. My grandmother was half Icelandic, and she brought those stories with her when she immigrated to the US in the 1950s. The Yule Lads are these creatures, I guess you'd call them. 13 of them, each with a weird quirk. There's Stubby, a short little guy who steals pans to eat the crusty bits left behind. There's Window Peeper, who presses his creepy face against your glass at night. And don't get me started on Sausage Swiper, who'll snatch any meat you leave unattended. They show up one by one, starting December 12th, and they love messing with our estate. Always have. When I was a kid, my cousins, Lila, now 33, Tommy, 36, and little Rosie, 30, used to make a game out of it. We'd set traps for the Yule Lads, like tying bells to the doorknobs so Door Slammer would trip over them. We'd giggle ourselves silly when we heard him curse and stumble off into the night. It was fun back then, innocent. But there's nothing innocent about what else lives in these woods. The Yule Lads are just the warm-up act. Their mother? She's the real nightmare. Her name's Gryla, and if you know anything about Icelandic myths, you know she's not someone you want knocking on your door. I've seen her. Not in a storybook or a dream. In the flesh. And let me tell you, once you've looked into Gryla's eyes, you don't sleep the same. I was 12 the first time she came to our house. That night changed everything, my family, my life, my entire understanding of what's real. If you're still watching, you're probably wondering what happened. Good. Because I'm going to tell you, but fair warning, this isn't a ghost story you'll laugh off with your friends. This is the truth about my forest, my family, and the things that lurk in the shadows. Keep watching, because you need to know why you cannot come here. If you watched my last video, you know I'm fighting to keep my forest, Thornton Woods, safe from trespassers and worse. I told you about the Yule Lads, those creepy Icelandic tricksters who show up every December, but I also mentioned their mother, Gryla. She's no fairy tale, she's real, and she's tied to this forest in ways I'm still trying to understand. When I was 12, I saw her and it changed my life forever. To explain why I'm begging you to stay away from my woods, I need to take you back to my childhood, back to the days when the Yule Lads were just a game and I had no idea what was waiting in the shadows. Buckle up, because this story is about to get weird and you're not going to want to miss a second of it. Growing up in Thornton Woods was like living in a fairy tale crossed with a horror movie. My cousins, Lila, Tommy, and Rosie, and I were thick as thieves, running wild through the forest like it was our kingdom. Lila was 10 back then, a wiry kid with a knack for climbing trees. Tommy, 13, was the self-proclaimed leader, always coming up with dumb ideas that got us in trouble. And Rosie, just 8, was the baby of the group, always trailing behind with her stuffed rabbit, whispering to it like it could talk back. We lived in my grandmother Margaret's big drafty house on the edge of the woods, a place that creaked and groaned like it had secrets of its own. My parents, Ellen and Robert, were around but busy. Dad ran a small lumber business, and Mom taught at the local elementary school. Most days it was just us kids, the forest, and our imaginations. Back then, the Yule Lads were the highlight of December. Grandma Margaret, who was 60 at the time and still sharp as a tack, would sit us down by the fire and tell us about them. She'd grown up hearing these stories from her own
Icelandic grandmother who'd come to Maine in the 1920s. The Yule lads, she said, were 13 brothers, half troll, half something else, who came down from the mountains every winter to mess with people. Each had a name and a gimmick, like characters in some twisted Christmas pageant. There was Sheepcote Clod, who'd sneak into barns and harass livestock with his stiff, peg-like legs. Spoonlicker, a gaunt, creepy guy who'd steal dirty spoons to scrape off leftovers, and Door Slammer, who'd wait till you were almost asleep, then slam every door in the house just to make you jump. Grandma made them sound like naughty kids, not monsters, and we ate it up. We turned the Yule lads each December into our personal playground. Tommy, being the mastermind, would rig up traps, tripwires made of fishing line, bells tied to doorknobs, even a bucket of flour balanced over the back porch to dump on whoever tried to sneak in. One year we caught Sheepcote Clod in a snare we'd set near the sheep pen. He tumbled face first into the snow, his wooden legs kicking like a cartoon villain. We laughed so hard we cried, watching him shake his fist and limp off into the dark, muttering curses in a language we didn't understand. Another time, Lila jammed the front door with a rolled-up towel, so when Door Slammer tried his trick, the door snapped back and whacked him in the face. He yelped, and we heard him stomp off, probably nursing a bruised nose. It was like we were the heroes of our own story, outsmarting these weird, ancient pranksters. But it wasn't all fun and games. Even as kids, we knew there was something off about the forest. Thornton Woods wasn't like the state parks where families went camping. The trees were older, gnarled, with bark that looked like faces if you stared too long. There were patches where the air felt heavy, like you were being watched. Once, Rosie swore she saw a figure standing just beyond the tree line, tall, hunched, with eyes that glowed like embers. Tommy said she was making it up, but I noticed he stuck closer to the house after that. Grandma's stories didn't help. She'd drop hints about other things in the woods, things older than the Yule lads, things that didn't play games. She'd lower her voice and say, "You don't mess with Gryla. Not unless you want to end up in her stew pot." We'd laugh, but it was the nervous kind, the kind that hides a shiver. Looking back, I think we were too cocky. We thought we owned the forest, that we could outsmart anything it threw at us. But Thornton Woods has a way of humbling you. Maine's forests are no joke. Over 90% of the state is wooded, and every year people go missing. Hikers, hunters, even locals who know better. In 1999, a guy named Daniel Harper vanished just 20 miles from our land. They found his backpack, but nothing else. The papers called it a bear attack, but the old-timers in town said the woods took him. I didn't believe that stuff back then, but I do now, because of what happened to Rosie.
I need to back up a bit. The Yule lads weren't the only thing we had to deal with growing up. My brother Nathan, who was 9 at the time, was a handful. He wasn't like the rest of us. While Lila, Tommy and I stuck to harmless pranks, Nathan went too far. He'd set fire to piles of leaves just to watch them burn, or hide roadkill in Dad's toolbox as a joke. Once, he trashed the living room, tipped over lamps, ripped cushions, then blamed it on Door Slammer. Mum and Dad tried to rein him in, but Nathan was like a wildfire, unpredictable and impossible to control. I loved him, don't get me wrong, but he scared me sometimes. It was like he wanted to push the forest, see how far it would let him go. One winter, when I was 12, we were all piled in the living room, watching some cheesy Christmas movie on an old CRT TV. The snow was coming down hard outside, blanketing the world in white. Lila and Tommy were sprawled on the couch, Rosie was curled up with her rabbit, and Nathan was fidgeting, probably plotting his next stunt. Mum and Dad were in the kitchen, arguing about bills or something. Money was always tight back then. The fire was crackling, the room was warm, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. Then the doorbell rang. I jumped up, eager to play the responsible big cousin. Grandma always said I had leader vibes. Rogan's voice came through the door. "Eliza, sit down," she called. But I was already halfway to the door. I cracked it open, the chain still latched, expecting maybe a neighbor or the mailman. But what I saw stopped me cold. A woman, if you could call her that, stood on the porch. She was massive, taller than Dad, with a hunched back and hair like grey straw. Her skin was rough, pockmarked, her eyes sunken and yellow. When she smiled, her teeth were jagged, stained brown. A stench hit me, like rotting meat and wet earth. "You smell tasty," she rasped, her voice like gravel grinding together. I froze, my heart hammering. Before I could slam the door, Mum was there, yanking me back. She stepped in front of me, fierce as a mama bear. "Get out of here," she snapped. "You're not welcome." The woman, Gryla, though I didn't know her name then, reached through the gap, her nails long and curled like talons. "Just a bite," she whined. "I'm so hungry." "I'll skin you alive if you don't leave," Mom growled, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. Lila, Tommy, and Rosie were watching from the living room, wide-eyed. Nathan, of course, thought it was hilarious. "Eat dirt, you old hag!" he shouted, cackling. Mum spun around, her face pale. "Quiet, Nathan," she hissed, but I saw the fear in her eyes. She locked the door, checked the windows, and told us to stay inside. Later that night, I overheard her talking to Dad in their bedroom, their voices low and tense. "Why didn't you just give her something?" Dad asked. "You know why," Mum said. "She doesn't want food, she wants them." I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing her face, those yellow eyes boring into me. The next morning, Grandma sat me down and told me the truth. Gryla was real, and she'd been haunting Thornton Woods for centuries. "She's tied to this land," Grandma said, "and she's always looking for naughty children." That was the night I stopped laughing at the Yule lads, because if they were real, then Gryla was too. And she wasn't just a story to scare kids. She was out there, in my woods, waiting. If you're still watching, you're probably wondering what happened next, what Gryla did, and why I'm so desperate to keep people out of Thornton Woods. Keep watching, because the worst is yet to come, and you need to know what's at stake.
If you've been following my story, you know Thornton Woods isn't just a forest, it's a prison for things that don't belong in our world. Last time, I told you about my childhood, running wild with my cousins Lila, Tommy, and Rosie, playing tricks on the Yule lads like they were some kind of game. But I also told you about Gryla, their mother, the monster who's haunted my family for generations. When I was 12, I saw her for the first time, and it wasn't just a glimpse, it was a warning. What I'm about to share is the hardest story I've ever told, and if you're still watching, you need to hear it through to the end, because this isn't just about me, it's about why you cannot come to my woods. Trust me, you're not ready for what's out there. Winters in Thornton Woods were always magical when I was a kid, but they had a dark edge like a fairy tale gone wrong. By December 1999, I was 12, old enough to sense the forest wasn't like other places. Maine's woods are vast, 17 million acres of forest, more than any other state, and they've got a reputation. People disappear here, not just tourists who wander off trails, but locals too, folks who know every inch of the land. Growing up, I'd hear whispers in town about the woods taking what's theirs. My cousins and I laughed it off, but deep down, we knew Thornton Woods was different. The air felt heavier there, the shadows sharper, and every December when the Yule lads started their mischief, it was like the forest woke up. That year, the Yule lads were bolder than usual. Spoon Licker had raided our kitchen, leaving every spoon in the house smeared with some foul, sticky goo. Window Peeper kept showing up at Rosie's bedroom window, his pale face pressed against the glass until she screamed. And Door Slammer was relentless, banging doors so hard the hinges rattled. We fought back, like always. Tommy rigged a tripwire that sent sheepcock clod sprawling, and Lila stuffed socks in the doorframes to mess with Door Slammer's routine. But even as we laughed, I could feel something watching us, something bigger than the lads. Grandma Margaret, 60 and frail but still fierce, kept warning us to stay close to the house. "Gryla's restless this year," she'd say, her eyes darting to the tree line. I didn't know what she meant, but her fear was contagious. It was December 20th, 5 days before Christmas when it happened. We were all piled in the living room, wrapped in blankets, watching Home Alone on a grainy VHS. The snow was falling thick outside, piling up against the windows like a wall. Lila, 10 was doodling in her sketchbook, sketching the Yule lads with exaggerated, goofy faces. Tommy, 13, was tossing popcorn at Nathan, my 9-year-old brother, who was sprawled on the rug, giggling like a maniac. Rosie, 8, was curled up next to me, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes glued to the TV. Mum and Dad, Ellen and Robert, were on the couch, half asleep, their hands intertwined. The fire crackled, casting warm shadows across the room. It was one of those perfect moments you don't appreciate until it's gone. Then the doorbell rang. It was late, past 9 p.m., and we weren't expecting anyone. Thornton Woods is miles from town and nobody just drops by in a snowstorm. I jumped up, eager to play the grown-up, ignoring Mom's sleepy protest. "Eliza, let it be," she mumbled, but I was already at the door, my hand on the knob. I cracked it open, the chain still latched, expecting maybe a stranded driver or a neighbor. But what stood on the porch wasn't human. She was enormous, taller than any person I'd ever seen, her back hunched to fit under the porch roof. Her hair was a tangled mass of grey, like cobwebs, hanging over a face that looked carved from bone. Her skin was rough, pockmarked, with pores like tiny craters. Her eyes were yellow, glowing faintly in the dark, and her lips, cracked and peeling, parted to reveal teeth that were jagged and black, like they'd been chewed to points. A stench rolled off her, a mix of rotting meat, damp earth, and something sour I couldn't place. When she spoke, her voice was a low, grinding rasp, like stones scraping together. "Such a sweet child," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "Won't you spare a morsel for a poor, starving soul?" I couldn't move. My legs felt like lead, my breath caught in my throat. Her hand, bony, with nails like curved knives, reached through the gap, stopping inches from my face. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone, swallowed by the weight of her gaze. It was like she saw through me, like she knew every secret I'd ever hidden. Mum was there in a flash, shoving me behind her. "Get the hell out of here," she snapped, her voice shaking but firm. "You're not touching my kids." The woman, Gryla, though I wouldn't learn her name until later, tilted her head, her smile widening. "So many little ones," she crooned. "Plump, tender, just one bite, dear lady. I'm so very hungry." "I'll burn you to ash if you don't leave," Mum said, slamming the door so hard the chain rattled. She locked it, then checked every window, her hands trembling. Lila, Tommy, and Rosie were staring from the living room, their faces pale. Nathan, of course, thought it was a game. "Go choke on a bone, you old witch," he shouted, laughing like he'd just told the world's best joke. "Quiet, Nathan," Mom hissed, her eyes wild. "All of you, upstairs, now!" We obeyed, but I lingered on the stairs, listening as Mum and Dad argued in hushed tones. Dad's voice was low, frustrated. "Why didn't you just toss her some bread or something? Get her to leave?" "You know it's not food she wants," Mum said, her voice cracking. "If we give her anything, she'll keep coming back." Like last winter, with the Thompsons' kid, I froze. The Thompsons were neighbours a mile down the road. Their son, Mikey, had gone missing the previous December, just before his 7th birthday. Everyone said he'd wandered into the woods and frozen to death, but they never found his body. The town was full of rumours. Some said a bear got him, others whispered about the old woman in the forest. I'd never connected it to Grandma's stories until that moment. Dad sighed. "You really think it's her, Gryla?" "I don't know what else it could be," Mom said. She looked at Eliza like she was sizing her up. And Nathan, God, why does he have to provoke everything? It's just stories, Ellen. Old Icelandic myths. Margaret's been filling their heads with this stuff for years. "Then explain what was at our door," Mom snapped. "Explain why I felt like she could have taken our kids right then and there." I crept back to my room, my heart pounding. Rosie was already under her covers, clutching her rabbit, her eyes wide. "Was that the bad lady Grandma talks about?" she whispered. "I don't know," I lied, tucking her in. "Go to sleep, okay? It's fine." But it wasn't fine. I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak of the house. Outside, The wind howled, and I swore I heard footsteps crunching in the snow, slow, deliberate, circling the house. At one point I got up to check the window, my breath fogging the glass. There, in the yard, was a shadow, tall, hunched, motionless. I blinked, and it was gone. I told myself it was a trick of the light, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The next morning, Grandma Margaret called me into her room. She was sitting in her rocking chair, a quilt over her lap, her face more serious than I'd ever seen. "You saw her, didn't you?" she said, not a question. I nodded, my throat tight. "Who was she?" "Gryla," Grandma said, her voice low. "She's older than these woods, older than this country. Back in Iceland, they say she's a troll, a giantess who eats children who misbehave. But she's more than that. She's part of this place. The forest feeds her, and she feeds it." "Why did she come here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Grandma's eyes darkened. "She smells weakness, fear, disobedience. Your brother Nathan's been pushing his luck, lighting fires, breaking things. She's drawn to kids like him, and now she knows you're here." I felt sick. Nathan's pranks had always been a problem, but I'd never thought they could summon something like her. "What do we do?" I asked. "Stay inside," Grandma said. "Don't open the door, no matter what you hear, and pray she moves on before Christmas." That encounter changed me. I stopped seeing the Yule lads as a game. They were real, and so was their mother. I started noticing things in the forest, footprints too big to be human, scratches on trees that weren't there before. Once I found a pile of bones near the creek, arranged in a perfect circle. I told myself it was an animal, but deep down I knew better. Maine's history is full of stories like this. The Penobscot people, who've lived here for thousands of years, have legends about spirits in the woods, entities that punish those who disrespect the land. In the 1800s, loggers in these parts reported seeing shadow women who'd appear before accidents. I've read old journals in the local library, accounts of settlers who swore they heard voices calling their children's names. I used to think it was folklore, but after that night, I understood. Gryla wasn't just an Icelandic myth. She was part of Thornton Woods, woven into its roots. If you're still watching, you're probably wondering what happened next. Did Gryla come back? Did she take someone? I'm not ready to tell that part yet. It's too raw, too painful, but I will, I promise, because you need to understand why I'm fighting so hard to keep people out of my forest. It's not just about trespassers or doxers, it's about her. And if you come here, if you step into her domain, you're not just risking your life, you're risking something worse. If you've made it this far, you know Thornton Woods isn't just a forest, it's a place where nightmares come to life. I told you about the Yule lads, those tricksters who haunted my childhood, and Gryla, their monstrous mother, who showed up at our door when I was 12. That night scared me, but it was nothing compared to what came next. I warned you this story would get dark, and I wasn't lying. What happened after Gryla's visit broke my family, broke me, and it's why I'm begging you to stay out of my woods. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to share, and if you're watching, you need to hear it all. Because if you come here, if you cross into her territory, you're not just risking your life, you're risking everything. Don't look away now. After Gryla came to our door that winter of 1999, Thornton Woods felt different. The forest was always eerie, but now it was like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to snap. I was 12, and I couldn't shake the image of her. Those yellow eyes, that rotting smile, the way her voice slithered into my head. My cousins, Lila, 10, Tommy, 13, and Rosie, 8, tried to act normal, but I could tell they were scared too. Lila stopped sketching her goofy Yule lad drawings. Tommy quit wandering the woods alone, and Rosie, sweet little Rosie, clung to her stuffed rabbit like it was her lifeline, whispering to it when she thought no one was listening. My brother Nathan, 9, was the only one who didn't seem fazed. If anything, he got worse, setting traps for the Yule lads that were less playful and more cruel, like sharpened sticks hidden in the snow. "Let's see how tough that old hag really is," he'd say, grinning like it was all a game. Mum and Dad, Ellen and Robert, were on edge too. Mum kept checking the locks every hour, her hands shaking as she peered out the windows. Dad tried to play it cool, but I caught him loading his hunting rifle one night, muttering about keeping the family safe. Grandma Margaret, 60 and frail but still our rock, was the only one who seemed to understand what was happening. "Greela's not gone," she told me one morning, her voice low. "She's watching, waiting for a mistake." I asked what she meant, but she just shook her head and told me to keep Rosie close. "She's young, vulnerable. Greila likes the young ones best." I didn't fully understand then, but I do now. Maine's forests have a history of swallowing people whole. The Penobscot Nation, who've lived here for millennia, tell stories of spirits that punish those who disrespect the land, entities that feed on fear and disobedience. In the 1800s, settlers in these parts wrote about hags who lured children into the woods, never to be seen again. I found a journal in the local library dated 1873 describing a family who lost their youngest daughter after she wandered off during a snowstorm. The father swore he saw a tall, gaunt figure carrying her away, but no one believed him. I believe him now, because I've seen what Greela can do. It was the night after Greela's visit, December 21st, the longest night of the year. We'd gone to bed early, exhausted from the tension in the house. The Yule lads were quiet for once, no doors slamming or spoons missing, which should have been a relief, but felt like a warning. I couldn't sleep, my mind replaying Greela's words. Such a sweet child. Around midnight, I got up to get a glass of water, tiptoeing down the hall so I wouldn't wake anyone. The house was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. As I passed Mum and Dad's room, I heard them whispering, their voices sharp with worry. "We can't keep her out forever," Mum said. "She's stronger than last time." "Then we leave," Dad said. "Pack up, take the kids, go to Portland. And what? Bring her with us? She's tied to this land, Robert. You know that." I didn't stick around to hear more. My stomach was churning, my skin prickling like I was being watched. I was almost back to my room when I heard it. A soft, muffled thud from Rosie's room at the end of the hall. Then a whimper, so faint I thought I'd imagined it. Rosie had nightmares sometimes, especially since Greela's visit, so I figured she was just tossing in her sleep. But something felt wrong, like the air was too thick, too cold. I stood there, frozen, listening. Another thud, louder this time, followed by a low, guttural chuckle that made my blood run cold. I forced my legs to move, creeping toward Rosie's door. My hand shook as I knocked softly. "Rosie?" I whispered. No answer, just that chuckle again, deeper, closer. I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking, and stepped inside. The room was a nightmare. The window was wide open, snow swirling in on a bitter wind. Rosie's bed was empty, the blankets thrown back. And there, in the center of the room, stood Greila. She was even bigger than before, her hunched form barely fitting under the ceiling. Her grey hair hung in clumps, her yellow eyes glowing like lanterns. Blood dripped from her mouth, staining her jagged teeth, and in her hand, God, I'll never forget it, she held Rosie's stuffed rabbit, torn open, its stuffing spilling like guts. But that wasn't the worst part. She raised her other hand, and there, dangling by her hair, was Rosie's head. Her eyes were open, glassy, staring right through me. Her mouth was frozen in a silent scream, her face pale as the snow outside. Blood dripped onto the floor, pooling around Greela's bare, clawed feet. "Such a tender morsel," Greela rasped, licking her lips. "But I'm still hungry," I screamed, a raw, primal sound that tore through the house. Greela laughed, a sound like breaking bones, and lunged for the window. She was impossibly fast, her massive body folding through the frame like a spider. I saw her vanish into the forest, her tattered shawl trailing behind her, her laughter echoing in the night. Seconds later, Mom and Dad burst in, Mom's face crumpling as she saw the blood, the empty bed. She fell to her knees, wailing, a sound so broken it still haunts me. Dad grabbed me, pulling me into his arms, but I couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop seeing Rosie's face. We locked the door to keep Lila, Tommy, and Nathan out. Nobody should see what was left of Rosie. Dad shut the window, but the cold lingered, seeping into our bones. We sat there, huddled together, sobbing until dawn. Mum kept whispering, my baby, like saying it could bring Rosie back. Dad just stared at the wall, his face blank, like he'd aged a decade in a single night. I don't know how long we stayed like that, but it felt like forever. The next day, we buried what was left of Rosie in the backyard, under a pine tree she used to climb. We didn't call the police. What could we say? That a monster from an Icelandic fairy tale killed her? Nobody would believe us. We boarded up Rosie's room, nailed the door shut, and never spoke of it again. But the house was never the same. The warmth was gone, replaced by a hollow, aching silence. Maine's history is littered with stories like this: children vanishing in the woods, families torn apart. In the 1920s, a logging camp near here reported a tall woman who'd appear before disasters. The workers called her a Wendigo, but the description matches Grilla: gaunt, hungry, unstoppable. The Penobscot have their own legends about spirits that punish greed and recklessness. I think Gryla's one of them, or something worse, something that's been here as long as the forest itself. Thornton Woods isn't just haunted, it's her domain, and we were fools to think we could live on its edges without paying a price. Rosie's death broke us. Mom stopped smiling, stopped singing the lullabies she used to hum while cooking. She'd stare at me sometimes like I was all she had left, and it made me feel guilty for being alive. Dad threw himself into work, staying out late, avoiding the house. Lila and Tommy drifted away. Lila got quiet, Tommy got angry, and they both left for college as soon as they could. Nathan changed the most. He stopped his pranks, stopped talking altogether for a while. I think he blamed himself. Knowing his recklessness might have drawn Grilla's attention. We never said it out loud, but we all felt it. The forest became my responsibility after that. Grandma Margaret made me promise to protect it, to keep Grilla contained. She's your burden now, she said, before she died. I was 18 then, too young to understand what that meant. Now at 35, I do. Every trespasser, every doxer who leaks our location is another crack in the wall keeping her in. I can't let her out. Not after Rosie. Telling this story feels like ripping open an old wound, but you need to hear it. Thornton Woods isn't a playground or a ghost tour. It's a graveyard, and Rosie's not the only one buried here. If you come looking for thrills, you might find Grilla instead. And trust me, you won't walk away. Keep watching, because there's more to this story, more about why I'm still here, fighting a losing battle to keep the world safe from her. If you've watched my story this far, you know what Thornton Woods cost me. You know about Rosie, my little cousin, taken by Grilla in the most horrific way imaginable. You know about the Yule lads, the forest's tricks, and the monster who's haunted my family for generations. I've bared my soul to you, ripped open wounds I've spent decades trying to heal, because I need you to understand. This forest isn't a game. It's not a TikTok challenge or a Reddit thread. It's a prison for something ancient, something hungry, and every time you trespass, you're rattling the bars. I'm begging you, stay away. This is my final warning, and if you keep watching, you'll see why I'm ready to risk everything to keep Grilla locked in these woods. Don't turn away now. Telling you about Rosie's death in that winter of 1999 feels like reliving a nightmare, but it's a truth I can't escape. Her loss shattered my family. Lila, Tommy, Nathan, my parents, all of us. We buried her head under that pine tree, boarded up her room, and tried to move on, but you don't move on from something like that. You just carry it, a weight that grows heavier every year. Thornton Woods became a graveyard, not just for Rosie, but for the people we used to be. My mum, Ellen, stopped being the warm, singing woman who baked cookies every Christmas. She'd look at me like I was her only anchor, and it broke my heart. Dad, Robert, buried himself in work, coming home late, his eyes hollow. Lila got quiet, Tommy got angry, and Nathan carried a guilt he never spoke aloud. I think he knew his pranks, his defiance, might have drawn Gryla to us. We never blamed him, not out loud, but the silence between us said enough. I was 12 when Rosie died, too young to understand the burden I'd inherit. Grandma Margaret, 60 then, made it clear before she passed. Thornton Woods was my responsibility. "You're the keeper now," she said, pressing that rusted key into my hand. "Don't let her out." I didn't know what she meant at the time, but I do now. This forest isn't just land, it's a cage, and Gryla's the prisoner. Every tree, every stone, every frozen creek is part of a web that holds her back. But it's fraying, and every trespasser, every doxer who leaks our location is another tear in the fabric. I'm 35 now, and I've dedicated my life to keeping this place sealed, but I'm running out of strength. Maine's forests are no stranger to darkness. The Penobscot Nation, who've lived here for thousands of years, have stories of spirits that guard the land, entities that demand respect and punish those who take too much. In the 1700s, colonial settlers wrote about witches in the woods, women who'd appear before children, vanished. A 1792 diary I found in the Bangor Historical Society describes a farmer who lost his son after ignoring a warning to stay out of a certain grove. The boy was found days later, his body untouched, but his eyes staring at something no one else could see. Sound familiar? Gryla's not just an Icelandic myth, she's part of this land, woven into its history like a curse. Maine's 17 million acres of forest hide more than bears and moose. They hide things that don't belong in our world. The doxing that started this mess, some jerk posting Thornton Woods' coordinates on Reddit, X and TikTok, has made everything worse. It's not just thrill seekers and ghost hunters I'm dealing with now. Last month, my security team, Marcus, 42, Jenny, 29, and the twins, Liam and Lucas, 31, found a group of self-proclaimed paranormal investigators setting up cameras near the creek where I found those strange bones as a kid. They'd read about Rosie's death online, pieced together from old forum posts and local gossip. One of them, a guy in his 20s, had the nerve to ask me if I'd seen the hag yet. I wanted to scream, but I just told Marcus to get them out. 2 nights later, Jenny found one of their cameras smashed to pieces with claw marks that weren't from any animal. I don't know if they made it home, and I'm too scared to check. The internet's turned my tragedy into a spectacle. There are subreddits dedicated to Thornton Woods, with thousands of users swapping theories about Gryla. Some say she's a Wendigo, others a demon. There's even a YouTube channel with AI-generated reconstructions of Rosie's death, complete with fake screams and jump scares. It makes me sick. I've tried to get the posts taken down, but it's like fighting a hydra. Cut off one, and 2 more pop up. X is the worst. Every week, there's a new thread with my family's name, our address, even photos of the cabin. I don't know who's behind it, some anonymous user called Woodswatcher, but they're relentless. I've spent hours scouring the web, from Reddit to Forchon, trying to find them. Nothing. They're a ghost, and I'm the one being haunted. Financially, we're drowning. Nathan's glamping scheme from a few years back left us $50,000 in debt, and the property taxes are due in June. I've had to cut my staff to just Marcus, Jenny, and the twins, and even that's stretching us thin. The forest knows we're weak. At night, I hear it, whispers in the trees, footsteps that stop when I turn to look. Last week, I found a fresh set of tracks leading to Rosie's old tree, too big to be human, too deep to be natural. I burned sage, said a prayer, anything to keep Gryla at bay. But I know she's out there, waiting for me to slip. Maine's winters don't help. The snow buries everything, but it doesn't erase it. In 2019, a hiker went missing 30 miles from here. When the snow melted, they found his boots neatly placed on a rock, but no body. The locals said the woods kept him. I'm terrified of what we'll find when spring comes. Every trespasser who sneaks in is another potential victim, another offering to Gryla. I've told my team to double patrols, but we're spread too thin. Jenny's been seeing things, shadows that move when she blinks. Marcus swears he heard a child's voice calling his name last night. I don't know how much longer we can hold out. The Yule lads are back, of course. It's December, their season. Last night, Stubby raided the pantry, leaving crumbs and a stench like sour milk. Window Peeper's been at it too, his face pressed against the cabin's glass, watching me type this script. I don't bother with traps anymore. They're not the real threat. Grilla is. I see her in my dreams now, standing at the edge of the forest, her yellow eyes glowing. "You can't keep me forever," she says, and I wake up, screaming. I'm starting to think she's right. Protecting Thornton Woods has cost me everything, my family, my peace, my sanity. I stay because I have to, because if Grilla gets out, it won't just be my problem. She's not bound by these trees, not really. In Iceland, they say she roams the mountains, but here, she's tied to the forest's heart, a place I've never found, though I've searched. Grandma left me that key, but I don't know what it unlocks. Maybe a door, maybe a truth. All I know is I can't let her win. This is why I'm begging you to stop. Stop posting my forest online. Stop sneaking in with your cameras and Ouija boards. You're not just disrespecting my home, you're waking something that's been asleep for too long. Thornton Woods isn't a haunted house or a theme park. It's a battlefield, and I'm the last line of defense. If you come here, you're not just risking your life, you're risking hers. Grilla's hungry, and she doesn't care who you are. I don't know if I'll make another video. I'm tired, and the forest is louder every night. But if you've watched this far, thank you. You've heard my truth, my pain. Please honor it. Stay away, for Rosie, for me, for all of us. You've heard my story, the loss of Rosie, the terror of Grilla, the fight to keep Thornton Woods safe. I thought telling you everything would be enough to stop the trespassers, to keep her contained. But the more I dig, the more I realize this forest holds secrets even I don't fully understand. There are truths out there, buried in history, in folklore, in the very soil of this place that make my blood run cold. If you're still watching, you're about to go down a rabbit hole with me. Real stories, real mysteries, and questions that keep me up at night. Stick with me, because what I've found might change how you see Thornton Woods and what you think is possible. Don't look away now. When I ended my last video, I told you Thornton Woods wasn't just a forest, it's a battlefield, and I'm the last one standing. Rosie's death in 1999 broke my family, and it made me the keeper of this cursed place. I thought I knew the stakes. Keep Grilla locked away, protect the world from her hunger, but the more I've fought to guard this land, the more I've uncovered about its past, and the more I wonder if I'm fighting a losing war. The doxing, the trespassers, the whispers in the trees, they're not random. They're part of something bigger, something that stretches back centuries and maybe even further. I've spent the last few weeks digging into history, folklore, and even the dark corners of the internet, and what I've found is unsettling. Let me take you through it, because if I'm going to keep begging you to stay away, you deserve to know why. First, let's talk about Grilla. I grew up thinking she was just an Icelandic fairy tale, a boogeyman to scare kids into behaving, but she's more than that. In Icelandic folklore, documented as far back as the 13th century in texts like the Prose Edda, Grilla is a giantess who lives in the mountains, descending every winter to hunt naughty children. Her name means growler, and she's often described with a sack for carrying her prey and a taste for human flesh. Sounds like a myth, right? But here's the thing. Stories of Grilla aren't just confined to Iceland. When my great-grandfather Samuel brought his family to Maine in 1890, he brought those stories with him, and maybe something else. I found a letter in Grandma Margaret's attic, dated 1895, where Samuel wrote about a presence in Thornton Woods that reminded him of his grandmother's tales. He described seeing a tall shadow near the creek, watching his children play. He never named it, but I know what he saw. Maine's history is full of echoes like this. The Penobscot Nation, who've lived here for over 10,000 years, have legends of forest spirits, entities that guard sacred places and punish those who trespass. One story, recorded in a 1990s oral history project, describes a bone woman who appears before children go missing. She's tall, gaunt, with eyes like fire, and she leaves no tracks. Sound familiar? In the 1800s, loggers in northern Maine reported sightings of a hag who'd show up before accidents, falls, fires, drownings. An 1876 newspaper article I found in the Bangor archives mentions a logging camp near here that shut down after workers swore they saw a woman taller than a man with teeth like knives stealing tools and food. The article called it mass hysteria, but the camp never reopened. These aren't just stories, they're patterns stretching across centuries, all pointing to something real in Thornton Woods. Then there's the forest itself. Maine's 17 million acres of woodland are some of the densest in the US, and they've always been a place of mystery. In 1886, a surveyor named Thomas Hubbard went missing in a forest not far from here. His journal, found years later, described stones that moved and voices in the trees that called his name. No trace of him was ever found. In 1975, a family of 4 vanished during a camping trip in Piscataquis County. Their tent was intact, their gear untouched, but their shoes were lined up in a perfect row outside. The case is still unsolved. I've walked Thornton Woods my whole life, and I've seen things that echo these stories. Stones arranged in spirals, runes carved into trees that weren't there the day before. Last month, my security team found a circle of bones near the creek, too precise to be an animal's work. I burned them, but I can't shake the feeling the forest is trying to tell me something. The internet's made things worse. Since Thornton Woods was doxed, coordinates leaked on Reddit, X, and TikTok, I've been drowning in attention I don't want. There are forums dedicated to solving my story, with thousands of users dissecting every detail. Some think Gryla's a cryptid, like Bigfoot or Mothman. Others say she's a demon tied to a forgotten ritual. There's even a theory that Thornton Woods is built on a thin place, a Celtic concept where the veil between our world and another is weak. I don't know what to believe, but I can't ignore the evidence. In 2022, a paranormal researcher named Sarah Klein posted a video on YouTube about Maine's haunted hotspots. She mentioned Thornton Woods, citing local rumors about a child eater and unexplained lights in the trees. The video got 2 million views before it was taken down. Nobody knows why. Sarah hasn't posted since, and her X account is silent. I tried reaching out, but her email bounced. Where is she? My team, Marcus, 42, Jenny, 29, and the twins, Liam and Lucas, 31, is stretched to the breaking point. Last week, Jenny found a backpack near the property line, torn open with a camera inside. The footage was corrupted, but we could make out a few seconds, a tall, hunched figure moving through the fog, its eyes glowing yellow. Marcus swears it's fake, but he's been jumpy ever since. Liam and Lucas keep hearing footsteps at night, circling the cabin, but when they check, there's nothing, just fresh snow with no tracks. I'm starting to think Gryla's testing us, probing for weakness. The Yule lads are back too, their pranks more malicious than ever. Yesterday, Door Slammer didn't just slam doors, he shattered a window, leaving a claw mark on the frame. I don't know how much longer we can hold out. Financially, we're on the edge. Nathan's failed glamping scheme left us $50,000 in debt, and I can't afford to hire more help. The cabin's falling apart, leaking roof, flickering power, and the property taxes are looming. I've been selling old family heirlooms to keep us afloat, including a silver locket that belonged to Grandma Margaret. It broke my heart, but we need the money. The forest doesn't care. It's louder now, the whispers constant, like it's mocking me. I found that journal I mentioned earlier, hidden in the attic, written by Samuel's wife, Eliza, my namesake. She describes a lock in the forest, a place where the air feels wrong, guarded by stones. She mentions a key, the one Grandma gave me, but says it's too dangerous to use. I've searched for that lock my whole life, but the forest hides it. Sometimes I wonder if it's real, or if it's just another trick. What scares me most is the thought that Gríla's not alone. In Icelandic folklore, she has a husband, Lepaludi, and a giant cat called the Yule cat, who hunts those without new clothes at Christmas. I've never seen them, but last week I found scratches on a tree, too high for a bear, too deep for a bobcat. And there's something else. In 2018, a team of archaeologists from the University of Maine found a burial mound in a nearby forest, dated to 1000 BCE. The bones were human, but the skulls were wrong, elongated with extra teeth. The site was sealed off and the findings were never published. I only know because Marcus's cousin worked on the dig. What if Thornton Woods is hiding something older than Gríla, something that drew her here? I don't have answers, only questions. Is Gríla a spirit, a creature, or something we'll never understand? Why does the forest protect her? What's the key for, and why am I so afraid to find out? Every night, I dream of Rosie, standing at the edge of the woods, her eyes empty. "You promised," she says. And I wake up, crying. I promised to keep her safe, and I failed. I won't fail again. This is why I'm still here, why I fight. Thornton Woods isn't a mystery to solve or a story to exploit. It's my burden, my curse. If you're one of those people sharing my location, posting about Gríla, coming here with your drones and cameras, stop. You're not just endangering yourself, you're endangering everyone. The forest is waking up, and Gríla's hungry. I don't know how this ends, but I know I can't let her out. For Rosie, for my family, for the world. If you've watched this far, thank you. You've seen my truth, my fear, my fight. Share this story, but don't share my woods. Help me keep her caged, because if she gets out, there's no telling where she'll stop.